Hello everybody, my name is Offbeat Outlaw. Welcome to the multi-class tier list. So, this is the third time I'm trying to film this video. I am tired. I am tired of going through this. Please work. Oh god, please. Today I'm going to be going through every single class in Dungeons & Dragons and ranking them in a tier list. This one, to be precise. Thank you to Joe Cat for the images, by the way. And this tier list, I'll be ranking them based on how good of a multi-class option they are. Meaning, if I was to pick any random class, and I were to then multi-class into this given class, how good would it be? Is it a good choice? Would it be a good synergy? That is how we're going to be ranking it today. Here are how I'm going to be ranking these classes. Point number 1. Will good multi-class options get all of their good stuffs in low levels? So if that means if you got some amazing thing that you get at like level 10, that's not a great multi-class option. Next thing that's basically about multi-classes, how easy is it to actually get into the class? Does it have some weird convoluted stat requirement? Is the stat requirement out of the way or in the way of most classes? That's how we're also going to be ranking them. Also, just how cool is it in game to be this multi-class? And partially my own personal bias with classes I have played. Is this one earbud thing bothering you guys? Is it the 2 earbuds? I don't really know. I'm just gonna go no earbuds. Let's be a rebel. Rawr. Let's get into the multi-classes. So, first thing of note, this is all in alphabetical order already. We're going to be going in alphabetical order. Isn't that lovely jubbly? Where's Artificer? God tier. Just kidding. No, it's not. Let's get into where it is. It can go in a few places. You might initially think that it is a B tier or high tier thing because of the infusions. Any class can do with some magical items. A fighter can do with a magic sword. Anyone can do with a bag of holding. But this actually, in a way, doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because, well, the DM can give those to you. One of the main reasons why you'd pick Artificer is because of these infusions, is because of the spells. But you can get the spells from being almost any other spellcaster, and the infusions, the magic items you can make, you can get from just playing the game and your dungeon master feeling generous. I'm sorry to say that even though some of the subclasses can provide really useful and good utility, for instance, the Eldritch Cannon I think is a great utility thing to use your bonus action for, it just falls short in almost every other aspect. And intelligence being one of the more random-ish stats as a whole, it just leaves so much to be desired. I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. I am sorry. I ranked it 3 out of 10. It's better as a main. That's another thing I should mention. If it's good as a main, that does not mean it's good as a multi-class. There are a lot of good classes that are useful as mains here, but they're just not great multi-classes. And just because I dunk on your favorite multi-class, it does not mean that it's bad. I am speaking as if this is objective fact, but it's not. It's my opinion. And this is just what I think of these multi-classes as a whole. With that being said, everything I say is true. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. So where would I place the Barbarian? You know, I could put it in D tier, I could put it in C tier, I could put it in any of these tiers. How about I go through my reasoning? So the Barbarian's got a few useful things going for it. Namely the fact that it's got good bulk. For a martial multi-class, it's excellent. The ability to activate your rage as a bonus action, effectively doubling your health pool to physical attacks, is amazing. Meaning you can take far more physical attacks, you can get right in the fray, and come out almost unscathed. In fact, if you take certain subclasses, specifically the Totem Barbarian, you can get that resistance to almost all damage except Psychic. That is amazing. So the Barbarian has got amazing bulk overall. It's a strength-based class, meaning most martial classes, martial meaning close combat classes, can multi-class into it with relative ease. All of them are it's a pretty good class overall. However, there's one glaring problem with the Barbarian, and that's the fact that you can't cast spells while raging, while using the class's main gimmick, the thing that you should really want to be doing as a Barbarian. You can't use most of your other class abilities. As a result, it just leaves the class in this weird spot of, should I do it, should I not? In my opinion, if this was a purely martial multi-class tier list, I'd put it in A tier. Solid, incredibly solid class. If this was a spellcasting tier list, I'd put it in D tier. Kind of useless. As a result, let's compromise and put it in C. Because more classes can use spells than not. And the subclasses are all like just pretty okay overall. You'll find them not really synergizing, but not really harming you overall. It's just, if I was to pick a random class, if I pick a spellcaster, I don't want to multi-class into barbarian, you know? But that's okay. You know, there is still some cool stuff with it. C tier is still respectable, even if it's a little low overall. Next class, the Bard. Ooh, the Bard. Ooh, the Bard. The Bard. Oh man, I'm just gonna put it here for now. Just kidding. I'm gonna spoil it. Bard is a god tier multi-class. Holy crap. Bard is an absolutely phenomenal multi-class. First of all, the way to get it, you need 13 in charisma. A lot of people put charisma into their stats anyway because they like feeling charming, and persuasion is an amazing skill. It's got excellent low-level boons. For instance, expertise, amazing. God tier ability. You can slap that on any class and find yourself in a useful position. You can slap it onto your perception to have an incredibly high passive perception. You can slap that onto your athletics if you're a fighter and become an amazing grappler. You can slap that onto almost any of your skills, and it's just great for your class. Next thing, inspiration, a great way to use your bonus action if you've already used your other class's bonus action. It's got also, the Bard has an amazing spell list. It's not the most diverse, but it's got a lot of great spells that you'll get a lot of use out of, and all the there's a subclass for literally everyone. You're a melee character, College of Swords or College of Valor. If you're a healer, pick up Glamour Bard. There is literally a subclass for everyone with the Bard, which is why I suggest everybody multi-class into it, and which is why it is a god tier multi-class, absolutely cementing its spot up there. I should also mention the Bards are the horny class. That's why they're get it? That's why they're good. Next up, we have the Cleric. The Cleric is another one of these interesting multi-class overall. Clerics as a base class are bonkers good. Clerics are an amazing class. They have one of the best spell lists in the game. They get some of the best abilities. They get Channel Divinity at level 2. They get their Divine Domain at level 1. Just all around an incredibly solid class. Channel Divinity, for those who don't know, is the ability to use the power of God. Obviously, that's good. And you can just put this onto a lot of classes. There is a Divine Domain for literally every single class you could imagine. And you might think that because of this, I would place this as God tier, but I have one big issue with the Cleric. It can sometimes feel like the abilities are getting in the way. You want to be casting spells with a Cleric, not necessarily always fighting up close. Some of the more with the martial characters, it can feel a little out of place in the build. Sometimes it can be a little awkward, but overall, I'm placing this as a solid A tier class. It is still amazing. You have an excellent options, excellent multi-class. Investment is rewarded. It's still amazing, even though it can sometimes feel a little awkward, which is why it's not God tier. Oh, I forgot to mention, getting into a Cleric, it requires a Wisdom of 13, which isn't too bad. You know, Wisdom's a little bit of one of those awkward stats, but you can still get it. Next up, we have the Druid. The Druid is okay. If I was to place, I'm gonna spoil myself a little bit. It's in its spot right now. It's a really mediocre multi-class overall. When you're multi-classing, once again, Wisdom of 13. It's got okay proficiencies overall. The Druid circle spells can provide some decent utility overall, and Druid spells as a whole are pretty solid. And Wild Shape is an absolutely god tier ability. That's frankly what's keeping it out of C tier. That's actually what's keeping it out of C tier currently, is the fact that it has Wild Shape. Wild Shape is an amazing utility ability that you can use outside of combat, or even in combat if you need a speedy getaway. But you can turn into an animal that is any weak, smallish animal. That's awesome. You can turn into a spider and be the best stealth camera the world's ever seen. You can turn into a small cat and sneak in wherever you want. It's amazing sneaking around. It's amazing utility gathering. You can get through. You can break out of prison, sneak into locks. You can do whatever you want if you're as a spider. The world is your oyster when you're a spider. That's whatever. Sadly, it is brought down to B tier because overall, it doesn't synergize well with a lot of the other spellcasters. Let me explain why. Wild Shape, its quintessential ability, while a great utility thing in and of itself, you can't cast spells while you're in it until you reach a certain level. So Druid makes an excellent main class, but as a multi-class, it can sometimes feel like being an animal gets in the way of doing your spells. So as a result, because its best ability is a little bit cumbersome to a lot of the other classes' abilities, it's in B tier. But it still does have some great synergy with a lot of the other classes. like paladins. You can smite while in wild shape. I'm just imagining a spider, a tiny little spider, crawling onto somebody, biting into them, and then with the force of 1,000 suns, a smite just exploding their shoulders. Not the most useful, always. Next up, we have the fighter, and oh boy, the fighter. Now, where is the fighter going? Is it in D tier? Is it in B tier? It's in God tier. Holy shit. Did you think it was... I'm a fighter main, so my bias is showing here, but did you think it was going anywhere else? Where else is the fighter gonna go? It's got the most... It has the single best ability in the entire game. Action Surge. The ability to take another action on your turn. That's broken. That's stupid. Who gave them that? I guess the game designers gave them that. But... you know what I mean. Who gave them that? That's ridiculous. It is an absolutely insane ability that works with literally every single class. Are you gonna deny that taking a second turn is good? It's always good. It's always a good thing to do. So slap on, and you get that at second level. You don't need to be 5th level, you don't need to be 6th level, 2nd level. You get to do one of the most broken things in the game, which is have another turn. That's insane. That's busted. And for the record, another reason why this works so well is it works with all characters, including spellcasters. That is right. Action Surge lets you cast 2 leveled spells in a turn. If that sounds broken, it's cause it is. But you can do it. It's why the Eldritch Fighter isn't a great subclass. Using Action Surge allows you to cast 2 fireballs in a turn. That's how that works. I'm sorry for those who disagree with me. It's not up for debate. You can make a homebrew rule and change it, but that's just how it's just how Action Surge works. It gets you another action to cast and do whatever the hell it is you want to do. There's no other rules behind it. The fighter as well also has some of the best subclasses in the game. The Rune Knight, the ability to become big and strong, can use your reactions to impose disadvantage on people. That's amazing. Battle Master, an amazing subclass with damage and battlefield control. Arcane Archer. Great archery subclass, better than the Ranger as a whole. The Cavalier, the ability to just get into a bunch of people and be like, hit me only, amazing taunt ability. The Cyanite, haven't played them myself, they look alright, but overall, the fighter is just she's got the best, it's just the best choice. So God tier, and also, side note for why it's such an amazing multi-class, you only need a 13 in dex. You need either a strength of 13 or a dexterity of 13. Now, I say or because it is or, and the or is important. You just need a dexterity of 13. And most classes will get a dexterity of 13 for the pure fact that dexterity is the best stat in Dungeons and Dragons. It defines your initiative score, so how soon you get to attack, and it defines your armor class if you're wearing light armor. So all around dexterity is the optimal choice, always, for whatever you're doing. So easily, everyone can multi-class into fighter. Everyone should multi-class into fighter. Fighter, God tier. Anyway, enough about fighters. Let's move on to monks. Monks require a dexterity of 13 and a wisdom of 13 in order to multi-class into them. They are a pretty good class overall. They provide some solid utility. Ki is a very useful ability that can allow you to take extra movement, dodge, make 2 extra attacks as a bonus action. All around, pretty solid stuff. However, that synergy kind of goes away if you're not a martial. If you're a character who finds themselves casting spells more than punching people, the monk is gonna feel a lot left out. It's good if you're a close combat spellcaster, but if you are not a close combat spellcaster, you're gonna find yourself feeling a little bit like the stuff you're getting from it is not useful. Using Ki as a dash is useful. Some of the abilities are useful, but overall, it's just not great. You do get unarmored defense, which is also pretty great, especially if you're a spellcaster who doesn't want to be wearing heavy armor all the time. And you might want to slap this onto a druid and get more armor with your wisdom. But at the end of the day, it's just not the best choice you can have. I think there are far better options for a wisdom-based class. If you really want the unarmored defense, I guess you can slap this on, but really the only characters I'm using this are rangers or rangers and druids. I'm sorry, monks, but as a multi-class, you're in D tier. Doesn't mean you can't make a cool class with a cool multi-class combo with it, but I think personally there's just better options. If you need the defense, just get some armor. That's what I'm sorry, monks. You're cool. You're a great main class, just pretty shat otherwise. Next up, we have the Paladin. Ah, yes, the Paladin. The Paladin has a lot of great things going for it. Namely, it has Lay on Hands. This is a healing ability that will allow you to heal people by touching them. This is a great utility ability. You can use it on almost any situation. If you've got a down party member, it allows you to play healer pretty nicely. So if you find yourself dashing about the battlefield, if you're, for instance, if you're a monk main and you use one of your key points to dash, you can get to people, lay on hands. As well, there is the Paladin spell list overall. It leaves much to be desired, but you don't want to be using your spell slots for Paladin spells. Those are Divine Smite slots, thank you very much, which you get at 2nd level. This is one of the best things that the Paladin has. Easily the best thing that the Paladin can do is Divine Smite. It allows you to add extra damage. You can do it whenever you land an attack, not just once per turn, but every single attack. Meaning, if you multi-class from a wizard into a fighter and then a Paladin as a multi-class, you can do some stupid damage, attacking 4 times with 4 Divine Smites on every single attack. It is a ridiculous multi-class. However, we're not just taking into account Divine Smite. Divine Smite in itself is amazing. It synergizes really well with all of the classes. I think every class can do with it, but it does require you to have a strength of 13 and a charisma of 13. That is pretty hefty. That's a hefty price to pay for Divine Smite alone. It's a decent ability, but strength and charisma are pretty hard to get, and if you're not already a Paladin, you're probably not going to be leveling those stats unless you're a Warlock. So it can feel a little bit out of place overall. The oaths also are all around. The subclasses are all around pretty useful, but it's just not the greatest choice. Divine Smite's amazing, but I'm sorry, you're sticking in B, Paladin. Next up, we have the Ranger. The Ranger is interesting, actually. It's not the worst. Surprise, surprise. I don't think it's actually the worst. I think it is in C tier with the Barbarian. So overall, you get good proficiencies and skills when you get the class. But in order to get the class, you need a slightly awkward stat distribution of dexterity and wisdom. Great for a monk, if you ask me. If you're a monk main, you might want to multi-class into Ranger, potentially. And by the way, I'm using the Tasha rework when considering this Ranger, not the Player's Handbook the Player's Handbook Ranger, because by God, the Player's Handbook Ranger sucks. It's so bad. Oh my God. But the Tasha's Cauldron rework is amazing. As is the Xanathar's Guide to Everything subclasses. In fact, if I was just ranking the Gloomstalker subclass, I would put Ranger easily in A tier. But we gotta rank it as a whole, and a lot of the subclasses don't really synergize very well with a lot of stuff. The Ranger spell list is pretty rad. Canny is a god tier ability, giving you essentially a free expertise. Favored Foe is a solid ability overall for some extra consistent damage, but it just doesn't have the power. It's got great utility, great exploration. The spells are pretty cool, but unless you're playing the Gloomstalker, you're gonna feel like, or the Horizon Walker, your power is always gonna feel a little bit lacking. So, C tier for you. Next up, we have the Rogue. Where do you guys think I'm gonna put the Rogue? He is the second main character in my Forever DM series. Is it D tier? Is it God tier? Is it B tier? Just Josh. It's God tier. The Rogue is a god tier multi-class, requiring only a dexterity of 13, which, like I mentioned with the fighter, everyone probably has. It has some of the best low-level abilities in the game. Expertise at level 1, god tier, giving yourself a bunch of amazing stats. By the way, in case I didn't mention this earlier, expertise allows you to double your proficiency bonus for a stat, allowing you, so for instance, at level 20, your proficiency bonus is +6. Let's just say you slap that onto a stat you have no bonuses in already. Like, let's just say, stupid as hell, you have no intelligence, and you're using investigation. Slap on have proficiency, slap on expertise, suddenly you're the best detective this side of the planet. +12, instantly. It's ridiculous. Expertise is a god tier ability. Next thing that it gets, sneak attack. God tier ability. 1 extra d6 every turn as long as there's another person within 5 feet of your target. God tier ability. Next thing, it gets its 2nd level, Cunning Action. God tier ability. As a bonus action, you can dash, disengage, or hide as a bonus action. What? That is insane. It is a ridiculously good bonus action. The ability to disengage, get in, get out, no getting hit. awesome. And it gets some more great defensive abilities like evasion at level 5, and that's getting a little bit too high in my opinion. You should probably stop investing at that point. But it's okay. It's amazing, an excellent subclass. Easy top tier pick. By the way, in these classes, they're all not like in each individual tier, they're not in any order. They're just kind of like there, if that makes sense. Anyway, moving on to the next one. The Sorcerer. Where do we end up placing the Sorcerer? I mean, it's a decent class overall, got some good utility. It's got meta magic, which is one of the best things a spellcaster can get. So you'd think it's A tier, but it's not actually. Even though it gets a Sorcerer Origin at level 1, it's not A tier, and there's one weird reason because of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And I'll explain that now. The best thing that a sorcerer gets, in my opinion, is meta magic. The ability, it gives you the ability to twist the way you cast your spells. For instance, the meta magic Quicken spell. By using only 2 of your sorcery points, which are special points like sorcerers get, you can cast a leveled spell, any leveled spell you want, as a bonus action. That means you can cast Fireball. And if you cast a leveled spell as a bonus action, you can still use a cantrip. So that means you can cast Fireball, and then if you're an Eldritch, and then if you're a sorcerer, a Warlock main, you can do Fireball bonus action, Eldritch Blast main action. That is ridiculous. So sorcerers you'd expect to be high tier, but I've only ranked them in B tier. And that is because of a feat called Meta Magic Adept. One of the best feats added in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, gives the magic of meta magic to everyone as long as they can cast a spell. So no more do you have to multi-class. You don't need a charisma of 13, which is required for a sorcerer. You just need to reach an ASI, a level 4 in whatever class you want, or be a variant human. You don't need sorcerers anymore. So because it is almost entirely outclassed by a feat, I'm putting it in B tier, which is still respectable. B tier is still a good place to be. You still get meta magic. You get a lot of sorcery points to cast these amazingly weird spells with. And which helps counteract its really small spell list. With the new feat, it just feels harder to justify, which is, if the new feat didn't exist, easy A tier. But as its current state, B tier. Next, multi-class, the Warlock. Now, where's the Warlock? I have written here, drum roll please, God tier. And that is right. The Warlock is the 4th God tier multi-class. As you can see, these 4 multi-classes are all amazing God tier options. Now you might be wondering, why Warlock? Warlock seems like a weird choice. Well, that is because of the vast array of subclasses to choose from. There is a subclass for every single type of person, in every single type of fighter in Dungeons and Dragons. By fighter, I don't mean the class, I mean player. I mean player character. If you are a melee character, Hexblade Warlock. If you are a more distance blaster caster person, Great Old One works. So does Fiend. So does Devil. So many good subclasses. The new GD subclasses are awesome. All of the subclasses for Warlocks are amazing. The otherworldly patrons are amazing, and you get them at level 1. No fancy requirements, no extra stuff. Level 1 is all you need to get an amazing otherworldly patron. And all you need in terms of stats is a charisma of 13, which once again, like I said, most people level charisma because they want to be charming. So it's not out of the way even. It's just a good option. Warlock is just a solid option. Also, the invocations allow you to customize Eldritch Blast into one of the best damaging cantrip spells in the game. Some of the invocations let you cast Mage Armor for free once a day, which is how often you're casting Mage Armor anyway. It's just an incredibly solid class. Any spellcaster can get used to using Eldritch Blast, can get used to the Warlock invocations, can get used to the otherworldly patron. And finally, the final class in Dungeons and Dragons. Where do we rank the Wizard? Now, we could put it in B tier, we could put it in C tier, I could put it in any tier I want because I'm using a mouse, but I'm gonna put it in A tier. And there's one simple reason why. It's the best class in Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sorry, I know I say there's no best class, but there is, and it's the Wizard. I don't like it either. I am a fighter main. I like punching people too, but it's just the best class. It's got the most options. It's got the most spells. It gets the coolest spells, like Tensor's Transformation. Turn into a force avatar that punches things with the power of force? That's ridiculous. Who let that happen? Who did this? You have the best spell list. Arcane Recovery at low levels lets you recover spells. You get your Arcane Tradition at level 2, allowing you to get access to incredibly powerful ways to use your spells. The Divine Domain lets you just roll 2 dice and save them for later. If you roll a 20, you can just save that for whatever the hell you want. It's just a universally useful class. However, there is one reason why it's not God tier, and that is because squishy. It is an incredibly squishy class. It is as squishy as the Sorcerer. And also, you're gonna find yourself, if you multi-class into this, once again, it requires the awkward intelligence stat to get into. It doesn't synergize all that well always with the martials, with the more martial subclasses. It works all right if you're a blade. It works incredibly well if you're a blade singer, but if you're not that specific subclass, it can sometimes feel a lot to be desired. And some of the arcane traditions just aren't as useful as the others for every single class. And keep in mind, because it's how we're ranking this is I am a random class, I'm multi-classing into this given class. How good is it? That's how we're assessing this. I feel like a wizard can sometimes be a little bit too specific, despite it being amazing, in order for it to really shine. This is my tier list. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm full of hot ass? Probably. But if you like this tier list, if you like content like this, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Let me know in the comment sections what you think. Do you think that this that I've ranked your favorite multi-class fairly? Do you think I deserve to get slapped with a rubber chicken? Probably. But be sure to let me know. Anyway, that is all. Enjoy the tier list. Enjoy the content. Get the fuck out of my house.